The sacrifice of Isaac, a test of faith that shook history, the knife raised. We must resist the temptation to domesticate this narrative, to strip it of its unsettling power, to smooth the rough edges, to explain away the paradoxes. For in the very tension between divine command and human conscience lies the heart of the revelation. This is not a story about blind obedience, but about a faith that transcends reason, a trust that ventures into the unknown. Abraham's journey is not a simple ascent to a mountaintop, but a descent into the depths of his own soul. He is forced to confront the limits of his understanding, the fragility of his control. He is stripped bare, left with nothing but the raw, unadulterated encounter with the divine. And within this stripping, within this profound vulnerability, we begin to glimpse the true nature of divine provision. It is not a provision that avoids suffering, but one that redeems it. It is not a provision that eliminates trials, but one that transforms them into moments of grace. Isaac's silence is not a passive acceptance of fate, but a profound act of trust. He embodies the vulnerability of the human condition, the willingness to surrender to a will greater than his own. In his silence, we hear the echo of the psalmist's cry, "My soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation comes from Him." The Akedah is not just a story about the past. It is a mirror reflecting our own struggles with faith, our own battles with doubt. It is a reminder that the path to divine encounter is often fraught with uncertainty, with moments that challenge our deepest beliefs. Yet it is precisely in these moments of darkness that the light of divine grace shines brightest. It is in the midst of our trials that we discover the true depth of our faith, the unwavering presence of a God who provides even in the most desperate of circumstances. Let us journey into this sacred narrative, not as detached observers, but as pilgrims seeking to understand the mystery of divine love. Let us allow the Akedah to challenge us, to unsettle us, to ultimately transform us. For within this harrowing story lies a profound truth, that even in the face of unimaginable sacrifice, God's provision is always greater than our fears. The narrative in context. Genesis 22.a. Stark, unadorned opening. "And it came to pass after these things that God did test Abraham." A sentence that hangs in the air, pregnant with unspoken weight. After these things. What things, indeed? Let us not rush past this crucial phrase, for it holds the key to unlocking the true depth of this narrative. Consider the tapestry of Abraham's life, the arduous journey from his homeland, a journey of faith into the unknown, the covenantal promises whispered like seeds into the fertile ground of his soul, the miraculous birth of Isaac, a child of laughter, a testament to God's boundless power, and then the wrenching separation from Ishmael, a sacrifice born of obedience, a tear in the very fabric of his paternal heart. This command, this test, does not descend upon Abraham in a vacuum. It arrives at the very summit of his joy, at the zenith of God's fulfilled promise. It is as if the divine hand, having bestowed the greatest of blessings, now reaches out to claim it back, to probe the very core of Abraham's devotion. The Hebrew word nisa, to test, is not merely a clinical assessment, a detached evaluation. It carries a depth, a resonance that transcends our modern understanding of testing. It speaks of elevation, of refinement, of the proving of worth. It is akin to the raising of a banner, a proclamation of something profound. Consider the alchemist's crucible, where base metals are subjected to intense heat, not to destroy, but to purify, to transform. Nisha is this crucible, a divine fire that seeks to forge Abraham's faith into something more enduring, more radiant. The great Jewish sage Maimonides understood this profoundly. He recognized that the test was not for God's sake, as if the Almighty needed to peer into Abraham's heart to ascertain its contents. No, the test was for Abraham's sake. It was an invitation to actualize his faith, to bring it from the realm of belief to the realm of lived experience. It is a call to move beyond the mere intellectual assent to divine promises, to embrace a faith that permeates every fiber of his being. It is a summons to transcend the limitations of human understanding, to surrender to the mystery of God's will. This is not a story of blind obedience, but of a profound encounter with the living God. It is a journey into the depths of faith, a journey that demands not just belief, but surrender. A surrender that paradoxically leads to a deeper understanding of God's provision. For in this crucible of Nisa, Abraham, and we are invited to discover that true faith is not about avoiding trials, but about finding God's presence within them. It is about trusting that even in the face of unimaginable loss, divine love will ultimately prevail. Let us then approach this sacred text, not as detached observers, but as pilgrims, seeking to understand the profound mystery of Abraham's journey. For within this ancient narrative lies a timeless truth, that the trials we face are not meant to break us, but to forge us into vessels of divine grace. The journey, 3 days of silent agony, and so they journeyed. On the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. 3 days, 3 eternities, 3 days of walking, each step a hammer blow against the bedrock of Abraham's soul. 3 days of carrying not just the wood for the sacrifice, but the crushing weight of an unspeakable command. 3 days of gazing upon the face of his beloved son, knowing that he is destined to become the offering. These were not mere days of travel. They were a descent into the deepest recesses of the human heart, a journey into the abyss of moral and spiritual anguish. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, in his profound work Fear and Trembling, grasped the essence of this agonizing interval. He saw these 3 days as the very heart of the Akedah, the space between the ethical demand and the divine imperative. For Abraham, the ethical duty, the natural, God-given bond of fatherly love, screamed in protest. How could he, a father, raise his hand against his own son? Yet the religious obligation, the divine command, echoed with unwavering authority. It was a collision of two seemingly irreconcilable forces, a conflict that threatened to shatter the very foundations of his being. Imagine the silence that must have permeated those 3 days. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of unbearable tension, the silence of unspoken grief. Each step forward was a step closer to the precipice, a step closer to the moment of ultimate decision. And then, the question, where is the lamb for the burnt offering? A question that pierced the silence like a shard of ice, a question that demanded an answer, yet defied all logic. God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. Is this a deception? A desperate attempt to shield Isaac from the truth? Is it a flicker of hope against overwhelming despair? Or is it a profound declaration of prophetic faith? The American scholar John Levinson offers a compelling interpretation. He suggests that Abraham's response is not a mere evasion, but a profound theological affirmation. It is a declaration of unwavering trust in God's ultimate provision, even in the face of apparent contradiction. It is a testament to Abraham's belief that even in the darkest hour, God's plan will unfold, that divine grace will ultimately prevail. It is a faith that transcends human reason, a faith that dares to believe in the impossible, It is a faith that acknowledges the limitations of our understanding, yet trusts in the boundless power of God. Abraham's words are not a denial of the present horror, but an affirmation of a future hope, a future where God's provision will ultimately redeem the sacrifice. For in the heart of this agonizing journey, Abraham discovers a profound truth, that true faith is not about understanding God's plan, but about trusting in God's presence. Even when the path ahead is shrouded in darkness, it is about surrendering to the divine mystery, knowing that even in the midst of suffering, God's love will ultimately prevail. Rabbinic readings, Isaiah's willing participation, the Agony, a narrative that has resonated through the centuries, has been the subject of profound contemplation within Jewish tradition. The rabbis, those guardians of the sacred text, have wrestled with its complexities, seeking to illuminate its deeper meaning, to extract the hidden gems of spiritual wisdom. The Midrash, that tapestry of rabbinic interpretations, paints a portrait of Isaac that transcends the image of a passive child. It presents him as a mature man, a man of 37 years, fully aware of the gravity of the moment, a willing participant in the unfolding drama. Imagine Isaac, standing before his father, his eyes filled with a profound understanding, a deep acceptance of his role in this divine drama. "Bind me well, Father," he implores, "that I may not struggle and invalidate your sacrifice." These words, born from the depths of his soul, reveal a profound act of submission, a surrender to the divine will. In this reading, the Agony becomes not merely Abraham's test, but Isaac's as well. It is a testament to his unwavering faith, his willingness to offer himself as a living sacrifice, a sacrifice that echoes through the corridors of time. It is a profound act of teshuvah, a turning back to God, a complete surrender to his plan. And in this surrender, in this willingness to embrace the divine will, Isaac earns a profound merit, a merit that extends to his descendants for generations to come. It is a merit that speaks of God's eternal compassion, a compassion born from the depths of Isaac's self-offering. The ram's horn, the shofar, that piercing cry that echoes through synagogues on Rosh Hashanah, is a tangible reminder of the Agony. Its sound, both ancient and timeless, evokes the image of the ram caught in the thicket, God's providential substitution, a testament to divine mercy. But the shofar's sound is more than a mere historical echo. It is a plea, a heartfelt cry from the depths of the Jewish soul. Remember the binding of Isaac, and be merciful to his children. It is a call for divine remembrance, a plea for God's compassion to extend to the descendants of Isaac, to all who seek his grace. The Agony, therefore, transcends the boundaries of a historical event. It becomes an eternal covenant, a bond between God and his people, a testament to divine mercy. It is a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable trials, God's love and compassion will ultimately prevail. It is a sacred narrative that invites us to contemplate the depths of faith, the power of surrender, and the enduring nature of divine mercy. It is a story that reminds us that even in our darkest moments, God's presence is ever near, his provision ever faithful. Modern Jewish responses, post-Holocaust readings. The 20th century cast a long, dark shadow over the ancient narrative of the Agony. The Holocaust, that unfathomable abyss of human cruelty, forced a re-examination of sacred texts, a confrontation with the very nature of divine justice. The Agony, once a testament to faith, became a mirror reflecting the agonizing questions that emerged from the ashes of Auschwitz. Elie Wiesel, a survivor of that horror, posed a searing question. Where was the angel at the moment of the Shoah? Where was the divine intervention for the million Jewish children who perished? This question, born from the depths of unimaginable suffering, echoed through the corridors of theological discourse, challenging the very foundations of belief. Emil Fachenheim, another profound voice, offered a different perspective. He suggested that perhaps the deepest lesson of the Akedah, in light of the Holocaust, is Isaac's survival. It is God's ultimate rejection of child sacrifice, a stark contrast to the pagan cultures that surrounded ancient Israel. The sheer horror of the 20th century, the industrial-scale extermination of human beings, does not diminish the relevance of the Akedah. It amplifies it. It forces us to confront the enduring tension between divine command and human suffering, between faith and doubt. Yet, despite the profound challenges posed by the Holocaust, Jewish tradition ultimately reads the Akedah as a testament to life, an affirmation of God's commitment to human flourishing. The Israeli philosopher Yeshayahu Leibowitz, a voice of uncompromising integrity, wrote, "The significance of the Akedah is not Abraham's readiness to sacrifice his son, but his discovery, contrary to prevalent practice, that God opposes human sacrifice. The binding, the near sacrifice leads not to death, but to a deeper covenant of life. It is a testament to the enduring power of hope, the unwavering belief that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, life will ultimately prevail. The Akedah, therefore, is not a story of despair, but a story of resilience. It is a reminder that even in the midst of suffering, the human spirit can endure, that faith can be forged in the crucible of adversity. It is a testament to the enduring covenant between God and his people, a covenant that promises life even in the shadow of death. It is a sacred narrative that invites us to confront the complexities of faith, to grapple with the questions that arise from human suffering, and to ultimately embrace the enduring power of hope. It is a story that reminds us that even in our darkest moments, the light of divine grace can still shine through. Typological readings. Isaac and Jesus. For Christians, the Akedah is not merely an ancient story. It is a profound prefiguration, a foreshadowing of the ultimate sacrifice. Early Christians, with their keen theological minds, saw in the life and death of Isaac a reflection of the life and death of Christ. Just as Isaac carried the wood for his own sacrifice up the mountain, so too did Jesus carry the cross, the instrument of his own suffering, to Golgotha. The letter to the Hebrews, that profound meditation on Christ and his mission, suggests that Abraham, in his unwavering obedience, believed that God was able to raise him, Elsa, even from the dead. This echoes the core of Christian faith, the resurrection of Christ, the victory over death. And what of the ram caught in the thicket? For Christians, it becomes a powerful symbol of divine substitution, a prefiguration of God's ultimate act of self-giving love. God, in his infinite mercy, provides the true sacrifice, sparing Isaac and offering his own beloved Son, Jesus Christ, to bear the weight of humanity's sin. As Augustine, the great theologian, eloquently put it, what Abraham was prevented from doing with Isaac, God completed with his son. The Akedah, then, is not primarily a story about Abraham's faith, though that faith is certainly awe-inspiring. It is ultimately a story about God's self-giving love, a love that surpasses all human understanding. In the cross of Christ, we see the ultimate fulfillment of the Akedah, the ultimate expression of divine love. It is a love that demands sacrifice, a love that conquers death, a love that offers hope to all humanity. The Agony, therefore, is not a story of the past, but a timeless narrative that speaks to the very heart of the Christian faith. It is a story that invites us to contemplate the depths of God's love, to embrace the cross as the ultimate expression of that love, and to find hope and redemption in the face of suffering and loss. Let us then journey into the depths of this sacred narrative, allowing it to illuminate our understanding of God's love, to deepen our faith, and to inspire us to live lives of love and service in imitation of the one who gave all for us. Theological reflections. Divine Kenosis. The Agony, that ancient narrative of obedience and sacrifice, finds its ultimate fulfillment in the mystery of Christ. Within the Christian tradition, this story is not merely a historical event, but a profound revelation of divine kenosis, a concept that speaks to the very heart of God's self-giving love. Karl Barth, the towering figure of 20th century theology, saw in the Agony a profound foreshadowing of God's self-emptying, his kenosis. The God who commands Abraham to surrender his beloved son Isaac will, in the fullness of time, surrender his own beloved Son, Jesus Christ, for the salvation of humanity. This is not a capricious act of divine power, but a manifestation of God's boundless love, a love that descends into the depths of human suffering. As Bishop Robert Barron so eloquently observes, in Jesus, God enters precisely into the place of the victim, thereby exposing sacred violence as a lie. The cross of Christ is not a testament to divine wrath, but a revelation of divine solidarity with the suffering of humanity. God does not stand aloof from our pain. He enters into it, he embraces it, he redeems it from within. The Agony, therefore, is not a celebration of human obedience, but a revelation of divine love. It is a story that reveals the depths of God's willingness to sacrifice, to suffer, to pour out his very being for the sake of his creation. The Christian reading of the Agony transforms it from a test of human obedience into a revelation of divine solidarity with human suffering. God, in Christ, identifies with the victims of violence, with the marginalized, with the brokenhearted. He becomes one with us in our pain, offering us not just comfort, but redemption. The philosopher René Girard, with his penetrating insights into the nature of human violence, saw in the Agony the beginning of the end of sacrificial religion. He recognized that God, through this narrative, was gradually educating humanity away from the destructive cycle of sacred violence, guiding us toward the path of self-giving love. What began with the staying of Abraham's hand, the prevention of Isaac's sacrifice, culminates in the outstretched arms of Christ on the cross. The cross is the ultimate rejection of sacred violence, the definitive act of divine love, the invitation to a new way of being, a way of self-giving love. The Agony, therefore, is not a story of fear, but a story of hope. It is a reminder that God's love is stronger than death, that his grace is more powerful than sin. It is an invitation to embrace a life of self-giving love, a life that reflects the kenosis of Christ, a life that transforms the world through compassion and service. It is a sacred narrative that invites us to contemplate the depths of God's love, to embrace the cross as the ultimate expression of that love, and to find hope and redemption in the face of suffering and loss. It is a story that reminds us that even in our darkest moments, the light of divine grace can still shine through, illuminating the path to a new and transformed life. Kierkegaard's teleological suspension of the ethical, the Agony, that ancient narrative of faith and obedience, has served as a crucible for philosophical inquiry, a testing ground for our understanding of ethics and religion. No philosopher engaged more profoundly with this text than Søren Kierkegaard, the Danish master of existential thought. In his seminal work, Fear and Trembling, Kierkegaard plunges into the heart of Abraham's torment, dissecting the agonizing choice that confronted him. He imagines Abraham as a man caught in the crossfire between two seemingly irreconcilable forces: the ethical universal and the religious particular. The ethical universal, the moral law that binds all humanity, screams in protest against the very idea of killing an innocent child. "Thou shalt not murder," it declares with unwavering authority. Yet the religious particular, the direct and undeniable command of God, demands absolute obedience, even if it defies all human understanding. Abraham, in Kierkegaard's imagination, becomes the knight of faith, a figure who transcends the limitations of universal ethics through an absolute and unwavering relationship with the absolute, with God himself. He makes a leap of faith, a radical act of trust that defies reason and conventional morality. This concept of the teleological suspension of the ethical, the idea that religious duty can supersede ethical obligations, has troubled and challenged modern. Does faith then become a license for moral atrocity? Does religious commitment stand beyond the scrutiny of ethical critique? The philosopher Immanuel Kant, a champion of reason and universal morality, vehemently rejected such readings. He argued that a command to kill an innocent son could never be divine, that such an act would violate the very foundations of ethical reason. Kant's voice echoes the anxieties of many who fear that religious zeal can lead to moral relativism and the justification of heinous acts. The tension between the ethical and the religious, the universal and the particular, remains unresolved intellectually. It is a paradox that defies easy answers, a mystery that resists neat resolutions. Yet, it is a tension that is lived out in the very fabric of human experience, in the struggle of faith, in the agonizing choices that confront us in moments of moral crisis. Kierkegaard's exploration of the Agony is not an endorsement of moral relativism, nor is it a justification for blind obedience. Rather, it is a profound meditation on the nature of faith, a courageous attempt to grapple with the limits of human understanding in the face of the divine. He invites us to confront the abyss of divine mystery, to acknowledge the limitations of our rational faculties, and to embrace the paradox of faith, the leap into the unknown. The Agony, therefore, is not a story that provides easy answers. It is a story that raises profound questions, questions that challenge us to the core of our being. It is a story that invites us to contemplate the nature of faith, the limits of reason, and the enduring mystery of the divine. It is a sacred narrative that invites us to engage in a lifelong dialogue between faith and reason, between the ethical and the religious. It is a journey that demands courage, humility, and a willingness to embrace the paradoxes of human existence. Modern ethical readings. Johnson's critique. Modern ethical readings of the Agony have sought to move beyond the traditional interpretations, offering fresh perspectives on this ancient narrative. Luke Timothy Johnson, in his insightful 2012 analysis, challenges us to reconsider the purpose of the story. He suggests that we have often misunderstood its central message, focusing on the wrong elements. Johnson argues that the text does not primarily function to justify blind obedience, as some have claimed. Instead, it serves to demonstrate divine opposition to child sacrifice, a practice that was tragically prevalent in the ancient Near East. God's command to Abraham, while seemingly shocking, initiates a process that ultimately culminates in the explicit and decisive rejection of human sacrifice. Against the backdrop of cultures where child sacrifice was a common and accepted practice, Genesis 22 emerges not as an example of divine capriciousness or moral ambiguity, but as a pivotal rejection of such barbaric practices. It is a radical countercultural statement, a powerful affirmation of the sanctity of human life. The philosopher Len Goodman further strengthens this interpretation, arguing that the story represents a decisive moral advance in human history. It marks the moment when the God of Israel definitively separates himself from the gods of surrounding cultures, gods who demanded child sacrifice as a form of appeasement or worship. The Akedah, therefore, is not a story that condones violence or justifies unethical acts. On the contrary, it is a story that condemns violence, particularly the abhorrent practice of child sacrifice. It is a story that reveals the moral progress that God was initiating with his people, a progress that continues to this day. These modern ethical readings offer a compelling alternative to traditional interpretations, providing a more nuanced and morally defensible understanding of the Akedah. They highlight the importance of context, the need to consider the historical and cultural background of the narrative, and the ongoing evolution of human morality. The Akedah, therefore, is not a story that should trouble our moral conscience. It is a story that should inspire us, a story that reminds us of the progress that humanity has made and continues to make in the pursuit of justice and compassion. It is a story that affirms the sanctity of human life, the importance of ethical discernment, and the ongoing struggle against violence and oppression. It is a sacred narrative that invites us to engage in critical reflection, to challenge traditional interpretations, and to seek a deeper understanding of God's will for humanity. It is a journey that demands intellectual honesty, moral courage, and a commitment to justice and compassion. The testing of faith, modern Abrahams of 4,300 words expanded. The Akedah, that ancient narrative of faith and sacrifice, continues to resonate with contemporary believers, offering profound insights into the nature of faith in the face of moral complexity. But what does this ancient story say to those who find themselves grappling with their own tests of faith in the modern world? It is not a call to literal sacrifice, nor is it a justification for blind obedience. Rather, it is a reminder that faith itself involves vulnerability, a willingness to open our deepest attachments, our most cherished possessions, to the possibility of divine intervention. It is a recognition that our lives are not solely our own, but are part of a larger divine narrative. The theologian Walter Brueggemann, with his keen understanding of the human condition, writes, "Faith means taking our most precious possession and entrusting it to God's larger purpose. This is not a passive surrender, but an active act of trust, a willingness to let go of our own limited control and embrace the boundless possibilities of God's grace." The Catholic philosopher Jean-Luc Marion, in his profound exploration of faith, sees in Abraham's response, "Here I am," the very essence of true faith. It is not about blindly following commands, but about making ourselves available to divine encounter, even when that encounter challenges our understanding, even when it demands a radical reorientation of our lives. This availability, this "here I am," creates a space for God's provision to appear precisely when all human possibility seems exhausted. It is in the depths of our vulnerability, in the moments when we have nothing left to offer, that God's grace can truly shine through. Imagine the parent of a child with a debilitating illness uttering, "Here I am." in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. Imagine the individual facing a terminal diagnosis, whispering, "Here I am," in the midst of fear and despair. Imagine the community facing persecution, proclaiming, "Here I am," in the face of oppression. These are the modern Abrahams, the individuals who, in the midst of their trials, choose to open themselves to divine possibility. They are the ones who, like Abraham, discover that true faith is not about avoiding suffering, but about finding God's presence within it. The Akada, therefore, is not a story of a distant past, but a living narrative that speaks to the very heart of our contemporary struggles. It is a reminder that faith is not a shield against suffering, but a source of strength in the midst of suffering. It is a testament to the enduring power of hope, the unwavering belief that even in our darkest moments, God's grace can prevail. And in this "Here I am," in this willingness to surrender to God's will, we find not only personal strength, but also a call to action. We are invited to become instruments of God's provision, to be the hands and feet of divine compassion in a world that desperately needs it. The Akedah, therefore, is not a story of passive acceptance, but a call to active engagement. It is a reminder that faith is not just a personal experience, but a transformative force that can reshape the world around us. Divine provision in Extremity of 4,200 words, expanded. The ram caught in the thicket serves as a powerful reminder of a profound truth. When human wisdom reaches its limits, when all hope seems lost, divine provision remains possible. This is not about magical interventions that spare us from struggle, but about a grace that appears within the struggle itself. A grace that transforms suffering into something new, something unexpected. The Orthodox theologian David Bentley Hart, with his keen theological insights, suggests that the Akada reveals a profound truth about the nature of divine action. He argues that between the impossible command and the impossible obedience, God provides a third way not visible at the outset. This third way is not a predetermined plan, but an emergent reality, a creative response to the unfolding drama of human existence. For believers and skeptics alike, perhaps the enduring wisdom of the Akedah lies in this recognition: when faced with apparent dead ends, moral, spiritual, or practical, the possibility of an unseen provision remains. This is not an invitation to passivity, to simply wait for divine intervention while neglecting our own responsibilities. Rather, it is a call to persevere, to act with courage and compassion, while remaining open to the possibility of something unexpected, something beyond our own calculations. The ethical challenge of the Akada remains. It forces us to confront the complexities of obedience, the limitations of human reason, and the potential for misuse of power in the name of faith. Yet, alongside this challenge lies a profound promise, the promise of divine possibility, the assurance that God's creative hand is always at work, even in the most desperate of circumstances. The Akedah, therefore, is not just a story from the past. It is a timeless narrative that continues to speak to the human condition, offering a message of hope, resilience, and the enduring possibility of divine grace. It is a story that invites us to embrace the challenges of life, to trust in the mystery of the unknown, and to discover that even in the darkest moments, the possibility of redemption, of renewal, of divine provision always remains. The ram in the thicket. The knife is lowered. The tension breaks. The ram appears, a symbol of divine intervention, a testament to God's unwavering faithfulness. The journey down the mountain begins, a journey of transformation, a journey into a new understanding of faith and divine provision. Whatever else the Akedah teaches us, it reveals this profound paradox at the very heart of faith. Our deepest attachments, the things we hold most dear when offered up in trust, are not destroyed, but transformed. Not because God demands their sacrifice in a literal sense, but because in our vulnerability, in our willingness to surrender, we discover their true meaning, their true value. Jewish tradition, in its rich tapestry of interpretations, notes that Abraham returns from Moriah alone. Isaac, some suggest, takes another path, his own separate journey. The experience has undeniably transformed them both, forging a new identity, a new understanding of their relationship with God. So too might our own confrontations with seemingly impossible commands, with moral complexity, with the mystery of divine provision, transform us, not into blind followers, but into deeper seekers, whose faith is tempered by questioning, whose trust includes the capacity for lament, whose obedience is rooted in a profound love for God. On the very site of the Akedah, a city would later rise, Jerusalem, a city sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims, a city of peace, yet also a city steeped in conflict, built upon the mountain of terrible testing, a place where the echoes of sacrifice and hope resonate through time. Perhaps that is the final wisdom, the enduring truth of this troubling yet profound text. Our deepest challenges, the questions that haunt us, the trials that test us to our very core, when honestly faced, when wrestled with in faith, become the foundation for something sacred, something new, something transformative. Our questions, not despite but because of their difficulty, their complexity, their persistent nature, open a space for revelation, for a deeper encounter with the divine, for a glimpse into the heart of God. Thank you for accompanying us on this profound exploration of the sacrifice of Isaac. We've journeyed through the depths of faith, morality, and divine provision, grappling with the enduring questions this ancient narrative evokes. If this journey has resonated with you, if it has stirred your spirit and challenged your understanding, we invite you to join the Hope in God community. Subscribe to our channel for more in-depth theological reflections, and share your own experiences of encountering grace in the midst of life's trials. Let us continue together as fellow pilgrims, finding hope and meaning in every step of our shared journey towards a deeper understanding of God's mysterious ways. May this exploration of the Akedah inspire you to embrace the vulnerability of faith, to trust in divine provision, and to discover the sacred within your own moments of testing.